Tim's News Explosion. 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 Hello, can you all hear me? Welcome to Tim's News Explosion, back on Monday, the 27th of November 2023. Apologies, I am running about 15 minutes late. Well, it's better than running 2 days late, and that you'll recall that is because my camera capture card decided to not work, so I had to use my MacBook Pro, dig that up, but it is extremely slow. As you saw there, I finally got it in a position to go live. You can all hear me and I can see your comments. Thank you everyone so much for waiting. Let's hope that I can get through this whole stream without my internet is fine now. As you know, there's been times where I've been robotic and haven't it's all cut out the sound, but if it goes a bit funny tonight, that is because there is CPU capacity on this MacBook. So last summer I upgraded to one of the new Mac Studios, but ever since a software upgrade, I can't get my camera capture card to use. So the inbuilt camera display that you're seeing, you can see me, but it is extremely slow because I have all my usual news articles and videos to share, but it's overloading the CPU. So just bear with me. Hello to everyone in the live chat. Hello, Lady of Charlotte. Hello, Naughty Design. Hello, Linda Hunter, Andy Nolch, Peak Aussie Man. And for those who say that I on the beers again, no, that is fake news. I've run out because there's been a rush on the hard solos now since they're going out of stock. So we are live on the Wilmstrand YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble channels. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where things are still the same. We're still living under the same socialist left Labor government, but the boys are back in town in the Netherlands and New Zealand. So my former Trad Tasman talk co-host, Dewey de Boer, he will be ecstatic as a New Zealander of Dutch heritage. Obviously, we had last week the huge news out of Argentina with the election of Javier Milei as the first libertarian president of any nation. and he is already abolishing one government department, the Department of Gender Equity. I can't remember the full name, but it's something ridiculous like that. Then we on Thursday, there was the Dutch parliamentary elections for 150 seats of their House of Representatives. They used a proportional representation system, and long time Dutch MP, the leader of the Party for Freedom Party, Geert Wilders, his party won the most amount of seats, 37 out of 150. That's a quarter, which they had a net gain of 20, an astonishing result. And Geert Wilders, he is known throughout, not just throughout the Netherlands, but the Western world as a critic of Islam. This was his book he published 10 years ago with Regnery Publishing, Marked for Death, Islam's War Against the West and Me. Now, he views Islam as a totalitarian ideology like communism or fascism. And he's said the more Islam you have in a society, the less freedom that you have. He's also in favor of repatriation of Muslim migrants who don't assimilate. He's basically when it comes down to it, an old school Dutch liberal Democrat. The Dutch have been known for years as the tolerant nation, but how can you tolerate the intolerant people who, well, the Islamists assassinated in 2002 a Dutch politician, Pim Voikum, by a leftist, Volet van der Graaf, who opposed him, in his words, scapegoating Muslims. And then film director Theo van Gogh was murdered by a Dutch Moroccan Islamist, Mohammed Boeren. This was over Van Gogh's short film Submission Part 1, written by Islamic apostate Somali, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was a member of the Dutch Parliament with Geert Wilders for a little while. She's now an American now. Now, unlike Millet and Trump, Geert Wilders is a career politician. He has been in the Dutch House of Representatives since 1998. He formed the Party for Freedom in 2002. So he has been in the parliament. It's been a hard slog with obviously being labelled by the Dutch media and in the international media far right because of the political assassinations. He's had to live with 24/7 security, live in safe houses. Now, he's fluent in English, unlike Millet, who only speaks his native Spanish. He is extremely succinct. I went to see him when he toured Australia back in 2012, I think it was. When he was invited by the Q Society, and he was which was founded by Debbie Robinson, who later founded the Australian Liberty Alliance, and Geert Wilders was invited to launch the Australian Liberty Alliance in 2016. I remember that day vividly. It was like a US president come to town. I saw 100 Victoria police officers march past me. When he came in, Debbie Robinson didn't even know that he was about to come on, and nobody was allowed to go near him. There was all these Dutch, you could call them Secret Service agents there. To their credit, because he's an elected politician, they've taken his security very seriously. Now, as I said, he's been attacked as being far right. they've falsely accused him of wanting to ban the Quran. He has been misinterpreted. He said that if you're going to ban a book such as Mein Kampf, you should also ban the Quran as well. But even somebody like him, as as composed as he is, when the results came in, he's in his 60s now, Geert Wilders. He was elated. So this is such a exhilarating result. And now it doesn't mean that Geert Wilders will be prime minister, because in a proportional representation parliamentary system, he has to cobble together a 76 seat majority government. So there has to be enough other parties who are willing to work with him. And remember, he's been a pariah of Dutch politics. There is another nationalist party that has been elected. So that is it is called the Forum for Democracy, led by Harry Bordat, who was attacked during the campaign. He was attacked with a bottle at a cafe a few days before the election. Forum for Democracy. So that is known by the acronym the FVD. So they got 3 seats. And now the party of the outgoing Prime Minister, the People's Party for Freedom and Democracy of the 13-year Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, they have refused to form a government with Geert Wilders. So they might try to gang up on him and deny him the prime ministership. So we shall see. But it's been attributed his victory to the prevalence of the pro-Palestinian marches in major cities across Europe, that basically, given and what Hamas's attack entailed, I think it snapped a lot of Dutch people's. Well, given that it was 6 weeks before the campaign, it snapped a lot of Dutch people out of a trance, and they voted for him in the moment. So certainly he was the right man for the moment, albeit after a horrific terrorist attack. Paleoconservative Australian says Wilders loves Israel, though. Well, so what? I heard he's married to a Jew. I mean, I'm sick of some people dismissing victories for nationalists and for traditionalists because they happen to support Israel. As long as they don't write checks, government checks to the government of Israel, and don't support endless wars, then that's their personal opinion. And Geert Wilders, he has been invited to the United States as a guest of Pamela Geller, who is a Jewish woman, and she works alongside Robert Spencer, who founder of Stop the Islamization of America. So certainly, it does. I don't care. I don't care if the supporters of if nationalists are backed by Jews or Anglos or other other aspects of traditional society. If they want to keep the country as free and and safe and under a central culture, then I'm happy with that. Now let's go over to New Zealand, where they have a new Prime Minister and a new coalition government. Chris Luxon of the National Party was sworn in as Prime Minister today. At the end of last week, he finalised a three-party coalition agreement with David Seymour of the Libertarian ACT Party, although David Seymour is no anarcho-capitalist. He's more a classical liberal small government person, and Winston Peters of New Zealand First. Now, Winston Peters and David Seymour will take turns being Deputy Prime Minister. So Winston Peters, he'll be Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister until the 31st of May 2025, and then David Seymour will be the Prime Minister. And in the 3-week negotiations, when the coalition agreement was released, it was clear that Winston Peters, he pretty much got everything that he demanded of a coalition government. Now, can Winston Peters, has he redeemed himself for making Jacinda Ardern Prime Minister in 2017, albeit he wasn't in the parliament during Jacinda Ardern's second term? That was a majority Labor government, the first majority single party government in New Zealand's 30-year history with mixed member proportionate. So it was quite unusual, and that's when Jacinda Ardern went further to the left with co-governance, and also by banning smoking for the next generation. Both of those are being rolled back. So the new government is abolishing the nanny state regulations. Also, David Seymour, one of his victories was allowing the sale of cold medication containing pseudoephedrine, because it was discovered that it had no effect on banning that off the shelf, had no effect on local meth production. So that's back. Also, Winston Peters, he managed to get, as well as a rollback of co-governance, abolishing the Maori Health Authority, and also New Zealand is not going to become Aotearoa, and all government's departments have to communicate in English. Only Maori specific departments are able to publish in Maori. Now, of course, Winston Peters is half Maori himself. David Seymour claims to be Maori, but he is pretty white. So you could say it's a coalition of 2.5 white men. New Zealand's going to get a white boy summer. And in case Winston Peters, you didn't think that he had earned redemption, here's some highlights of him taking on the far left New Zealand media, who have intensified their crying into their wheat beaks.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And David, congratulations, and thanks for the chance to form a government that's desperately needed in this country at a time when so many issues were at an inflection point. We had to succeed, and we have. The second thing is, these were seriously long, difficult and complicated talks, arduous in the extreme, and we expected nothing less, because that's the nature of life itself, where we are as a country. So thank you for that. The other thing is that everything we want to say from New Zealand's first point of view is in our coalition agreement. We went to the wire for our people in the same way that David Seymour did for his, and Mr. Luxon did for his as well, and that's the nature of these coalition talks. Please understand, it was under 3 weeks. Please do not be mathematical morons and keep on saying it's 40 days, because if we'd have started the coalition talks on election day, you'd have been arguing, wait until the special votes are counted. Now, please tell the New Zealand people for the first time in 30 years how it works, and that we took 5 months less than Germany took in 2017. And don't argue about it. There's not a competition here. You want to argue with me, you should have been there before the election. Maybe I'd have got more votes.
All right. Okay.
So back to the point here. Everything is in the coalition agreement that we wanted. It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And we, in New Zealand First, for our part, know that there's going to be a much, much better government.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Winston. Thank you for those remarks.
And in case he wasn't pointed enough at the mistruths and lies spun by the media, he was more direct with one particular journalist, calling her out on her biased reporting.
I'm looking forward to working with both of them, and I think that's respectful.
Can I just say, this is no longer Jessica, Toba, all right? We're going to have a balanced media from here on in. And so I want everybody to get a fair question here, just not two of you. We're not co-deputies.
No.
Get it right for a start.
There is one Deputy Prime Minister at a point in time. The role is shared and broken out at the 18-month mark, halfway through the term.
No, we're not sharing it either. I'm taking the first 18 months and David's taking the second 18 months.
Okay, right.
Right?
Okay.
Beg your pardon. Now, look, please don't start off this government with your antagonistic attitude. You've lost. You lost. Right?
Sorry, hang on, guys. Hang on. Sorry, yes. Claudette.
No, we don't answer stupid questions. We've shaken hands here to be capable of earning trust. Please understand what real life looks like for adults. We've shaken hands on a commitment to make this government work because this country desperately needs it. Make no bones about it.
Well, it's not a stupid question because David Seymour, you called him the most untrustworthy politician in New Zealand.
I trust all ministers in our cabinet. That's how cabinet collective responsibility works, and that's how I'll operate.
Peters, in 2017, you said that when you announced that you would go into coalition with the Labour Party, that capitalism needed to regain its human face. How do you reconcile that with going into coalition with the ACT Party?
You're saying we don't have a human face? No, I knew the media was nasty.
It's a lovely face, David.
Thank you very much.
Well, I meant that back then, and the sad thing was that we were in a coalition government with a party that signed up to that and then went down the road with every woke, secretive plan they could possibly engender and with the support of the New Zealand media. That's all stopped. We're back now governing for the mass majority of all New Zealanders. We just want a fair go.
All right, on that note, team.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say thank you very much? We are going to go... Sorry, guys, we're finishing. Thank you very much. We're going to go to work. Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later, Claudette. Thank you very much.
Now that journalist, he said, you've lost to, she played all innocent in a radio interview. I don't know what he was talking about. Now, today, Winston Peters, he also said that the media had been bribed by the previous Ardern government with the Public Journalism Fund. So that is why they were so uncritical of Jacinta Ardern during the COVID pandemic and lockdowns and mandates. And News Hub, which is it's not a state-owned outlet, but it is far left. Channel 3, they also, they did air the project in New Zealand. It has been thankfully axed. They have the worst reporter in New Zealand, Patrick Gower. So this was their triggered report at Winston Peters saying that they were bribed.
New government was sworn in today, but the old Winston Peters turned up, accusing the outgoing government of bribing the media, and he issued an indirect order to state broadcasters to stop using Te Reo Māori.
How quickly do you expect government departments and government agencies to act in removing Te Reo Māori?
The speed at which TVNZ and RNZ, which are taxpayer-owned, understand this new message. We'll see whether these people, with the media and journalists, are they independent? Well, isn't that fascinating? I've never seen the evidence of that the last 3 years.
Outlandishly and incorrectly claiming the government had, quote, bribed the media through the Public Interest Journalism Fund.
You can't defend $55 million of bribery.
Repeating for effect.
No, you cannot defend $55 million of bribery. Get it very clear.
politics. Ministers in the past have faced weeks of pressure for any perception that they may be trying to exert influence over our state broadcasters, and rightly so. Their editorial independence is sacred. It may have been okay for Winston Peters to have a lash at media on the election campaign, but this is something different. He is the Deputy Prime Minister, and this is about democracy. It is also unbecoming of a Deputy Prime Minister to falsely accuse the media of taking bribes from a government, and you can bet your bottom dollar that this particular Deputy Prime Minister and serial litigant Winston Peters would at least threaten to haul someone through the courts if the same baseless accusation was levelled at him.
Oh, cry harder, bimbo. And now some other based policies in the coalition agreements is that there's going to be a proper COVID-19 inquiry, not the version that the Ardern government introduced. There's going to be all existing, any remaining mandates will be abolished. New Zealand is not going to adopt the WHO pandemic treaty regulations. Also, transgenders are banned from women's sport because, well, that's where they tend to compete. And also, gender ideology is being banned from taught in the curriculum as well. And so this is going to be a cracking government. Now, the history of coalition partners in New Zealand governments is that they lose party status at the next election. And that happened to Winston Peters when he backed Helen Clark in 2005 and Jacinta Ardern in 2017. But given the awesome coalition agreement Winston Peters got and New Zealand First got pretty much everything that they asked for. They're saying that David Seymour and Axe didn't get as nearly as much, though certainly David Seymour with reversing some of those regulations and nanny state measures. He's going to be Assistant Finance Minister and Regulation Minister. Certainly he's going to get on with reducing tax and regulations and getting rid of the deep state bureaucracy from that angle as well. So if now Dewey Jabor, he has set up what he has called a coalition government promise tracker. And if they keep all those promises, I mean, they're going to, New Zealand is going to be great again, and there might lead to some reverse migration. Australians might go over to New Zealand. So if they fulfill their promises, the coalition the coalition agreement, then all three parties will be easily re-elected. Chris Hipkins, the outgoing Prime Minister, Labor leader, he's staying on because, nobody else is qualified there. So as Winston Peters said, that the negotiations didn't take as long as you all made out. And this is the history of proportional representation governments, how they're formed. So he mentioned that in 2017, Germany took 5 months to form a new government. Belgium was without a government for a year. Caretaker governments can last for months and months. But there's obviously debate around the various forms of election. United States direct president. We have a two-party system, as does the UK, that we have a proportional representative upper house, and then it's mainly in European countries and New Zealand, the proportional representation system. Okay, so that's the good news. Let's go to the bad news. And Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is in a very bad state. It is ruled by, supposedly a centre-right party. He's not called the Prime Minister. The Taoiseach is what is called Leo Varadkar. So he is half Indian. He's a doctor. He's the leader of Fine Gael, so that is supposedly a centre-right party. Unfortunately, in Ireland, that nationalism is perverse. So Sinn Féin, which is considered the political arm of the Provisional Irish Republican Army, wanting a united Ireland. Celtic nationalist parties, they're all left wing. They want independence from the United Kingdom, but they still want to be part of the EU and allow mass migration in. So you basically got now there's nobody for nationalists to vote for, because they're all basically, whether they're called left or right, they're all globalist, progressive political parties, and have a disdain for the native natives that they're supposed to represent. I mean, Humza Yousaf, the leader of the so-called Scottish National Party, he has disdain that there's so many native Scots in positions of authority and in business. And Leo Varadkar is no different. This was him talking about the need for racial quotas, that there needed to be more people of colour in Irish positions of authority.
One thing I strongly agree with the Deputy on is the need to set a target to have a number of people from ethnic minorities in areas of the public service. We have a health service that's very diverse, although less so as you go up towards the senior positions, not so much in the Gardaí, not so much in the Defence Forces, not so much in the education sector, as the Deputy mentioned, not at all in the civil service, which is very white, including the Department of Equality, for example. And that actually needs to change. So we need to have, I think, a target for people who come from ethnic minority backgrounds, but also dedicated recruitment campaigns to encourage people, because we do need a generation of young people growing up in Ireland who are people of colour to see black and brown school principals, judges, Cian Corla perhaps in the future. Who knows? Visibility and opportunity is really important.
A lady of Shalott who grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and who is a loyalist unionist, has said, I used to see them flying the Palestinian flag above Sinn Féin's offices on my way to school. Sinn Féin they've called for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador to Ireland. I mean, a apologist for terrorist political party backing an unapologetic terrorist organization in the Middle East. So I guess they are a match. So this horrific stabbing in Dublin. So there was 3 school children who were stabbed, and a caretaker who was trying to protect them. Now, because the Irish media is just appalling, they have tried to claim he's a naturalized Irish citizen. Now, he was once the subject of a deportation order when he was arrested in 2003. However, after a judicial review, of course, the deportation order was revoked and he was given a green light to stay in the country, no doubt thanks to intervention from NGOs. He was due to be deported 20 years ago, but fought the order for 5 years. He eventually obtained an Irish passport as a naturalized Irish citizen. Another report today suggested that the attack on the children was motivated by the man not getting his welfare benefits and that he deliberately targeted the school in question. Now, there was obviously, as we could see, anger on the streets of Dublin, the capital of the Republic of Ireland, with Gardiel which is the name of the Irish police. There were their cars that were set alight, and there was Garda officers injured. There was 48 rioters who were arrested. There were 13 shops looted or damaged, 4 buses and 1 tram destroyed, 11 Guardia vehicles damaged, and 32 have been charged. Now, these weren't called peaceful protests like the Black Lives Matter riots. And this, obviously, the native Irish, they were angry, but reacting in this way, damaging businesses. And also, I mean, you're not going, the state's going to come after you if you react in this way. And that is, Leo Varadkar, he has promised that. I mean, this is, as it was supposed to be, the focus should be that this Algerian-born criminal who stabbed 3 innocent children and 2 adults, the focus should be on the invasion of Ireland, because, well, they've just been kept. If you thought the English Channel, they were all going to Britain, lots are going to Ireland now. Their migrant hotels are filling up, and there is not even there is no tough talking coming from the Irish government. So this was Leo Varadkar talking about condemning the Irish natives who gathered in Dublin.
To all those cowardly champions of Ireland who took to the streets of Dublin last night, let me say one thing. Ask your sisters, ask your friends, ask everyone you know what they fear most on our streets. They're afraid of you, afraid of your anger and your rage, afraid of your violence, your hate, and how you blame others for your problems. As a government, we will be relentless in protecting our citizens and defending our people. The Gardaí will be on the streets in large numbers and will do whatever it takes to fight back waves of ignorance and criminality. The Minister for Justice will coordinate with the Commissioner to ensure we never witness such terrible scenes as the 23rd of November 2023 ever again.
And he's also promised to even further strengthen hate speech laws in Ireland.
We're going to make sure that we make those changes to our laws in the next couple of weeks to allow the Gardaí to use that evidence and go through that evidence and identify the people who are involved in these actions, and we are going to get them. In addition to that, I think it's now very obvious to anyone who might have doubted it that our incitement to hatred legislation is just not up to date. It's not up to date for the social media age, and we need that legislation through, and we need it through within a matter of weeks, because it's not just the platforms who have a responsibility here, and they do. There's also the individuals who post messages and images online that stir up hatred and violence, and we need to be able to use laws to go after them individually as well.
Now, a UFC fighter, Conor McGregor, he's gone full Irish nationalist Chad. So he is now under investigation for hate speech because of his tweets or X posts. Innocent children ruthlessly stabbed by a mentally deranged non-national in Dublin today. Our chief of police has this to say on the rights in the aftermath. Drew, not good enough. There is grave danger amongst us in Ireland that should never have been here in the first place. And he has also said that Ireland, we are at war in relation to the chronic housing shortage that has made basic living unaffordable for many citizens. Now, Ireland, it's not a very highly populated country, only 4 million in the Republic of Ireland. So if there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that come via boat, it is pretty... It won't take long for the demographics to change. The most most popular newborn boy's name in the Republic of Ireland is Muhammad. So even though McGregor, he disavowed the looting and criminality, he is still under investigation. So this was in I think it was the Irish Times. McGregor's posts are being assessed by the Gardaí, the Irish police, as part of an inquiry into the dissemination of online hate speech. And so Keith Wood said, disgraceful, Connor repeatedly condemned any illegal activity as only expression the view of the majority of Irish people on uncontrolled immigration. So the Irish, they don't have at the ballot box, they have a choice between globalist left and globalist right. There's no, they have no choice about really no choice about for a authentic nationalist party, because it's so perverse, Celtic nationalism. The same in Scotland as well. So things have to sadly, for there to be any sort of big change like we saw in Argentina and in the Netherlands, things are going to have to get way worse in Ireland for them to be there to be some sort of correction. And the great thing about what we saw with Milei in Argentina and Geert Wilders in the Netherlands is that it was democracy. I mean, you'd hope that there is some authentic nationalist party that emerges in the Republic of Ireland, that we don't see a new Irish civil war. Obviously, Ireland, there has been lots of bloodshed throughout its history. And most recently during the Troubles with the horrific terrorism of the IRA, who they were all unapologetic. As I said, Sinn Féin, they have never condemned or apologized. Well, apologized for their association with the IRA. I mean, they just say, "Oh, it's just sad, all of the violence," and one of the Israeli hostages that was exchanged, the Leo Varadkar, put out a statement. So Emily Hand, she was a dual Israeli Irish citizen. So Leo Varadkar said, "This is a day of enormous joy and relief for Emily Hand and her family. An innocent child has been lost and now found and returned, and we breathe a massive sigh of relief. Our prayers have been answered." It makes it sound like she just got lost, wandered off in the woods, and now she's been found. And there was a community note. Emily Hand was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th. The use of the term lost is inappropriate and fails to highlight how she was released as part of a hostage deal. So he had another go at releasing a statement, and he disabled the comments on his account, and his full statement wasn't much better, just saying that saying that she was held hostage, but didn't mention a Hamas, just said hostages in Gaza. And so it wasn't much better, although he was pretty when it came to condemning his own citizens. We were all shocked by the incident. That's what he referred to, the stabbing, the incident which has taken place in Parnell Square. A number of people have been injured, some of them children. Our thoughts and prayers go out to them and their families. I've been in contact with the Minister for Justice, keeping me updated. The facts in this matter are still emerging. The emergency service responded very quickly and were on site within minutes. I thank them for that. Gardaí have detained a suspect and are following a definite line of inquiry. So there was an incident in Dublin, and a little girl who was kidnapped by Hamas and held for 5 weeks. She was just a lost and found. Now, it's the final day of it's not called a ceasefire. The official terminology is a pause. So though Israel says that it still aims to destroy Hamas. So the deal was that Israel would get 50 of their citizens back, while Israel would release 150 Palestinian prisoners, many of them guilty of violent crimes such as throwing stones. So it's a terrible deal, you would say, on paper. Now, it was negotiated by in part by intermediaries, the United States on behalf of Israel and Qatar on behalf of Hamas. So even though the Israelis are releasing more Palestinians than they're getting back Israelis, according to Kay Burley on Sky News, this is actually this actually means that the Israelis I'll let Kay Burley's this is Kay Burley logic. How apparently this is actually shows a Jewish supremacy, apparently.
I was speaking to a hostage negotiator this morning. He made the comparison between the 50 hostages that Hamas has promised to release, as opposed to the 150 prisoners that are Palestinians that Israel has said that it will release. And he made the comparison between the numbers and the fact that, does Israel not think that Palestinian lives are valued as highly as Israeli lives?
That is an astonishing accusation. If we could release one prisoner for every one hostage, we would obviously do that. We're operating in horrific circumstances. We're not choosing to release these prisoners who have blood on their hands. We are talking about people who have been convicted of stabbing and shooting attacks. Notice the question of proportionality doesn't interest Palestinian supporters when they are able to get more of their prisoners out. But really, it is outrageous to suggest that the fact that we are willing to release prisoners who are convicted of terrorism offenses, more of them than we are getting our own innocent children back, somehow suggests that we don't care about Palestinian lives. Really, that's a disgusting accusation.
He should have just walked off there. I mean, Kay Burley to say that, she's quoting some hostage negotiator who said, the Israelis have agreed to this deal because they believe that their citizens are worth 3 times the value of Palestinian lives, which is I can't believe anyone would think of that. I mean, of course, that if Israel would prefer it to be a one for one. Lady of Charlotte says Kay Burley is one of the biggest idiots in the world. Well, I think she's actually in her 60s. She's getting really old. She's graduated to the status of senile old hag. So now Israel has said that they're willing to extend the ceasefire or the pause, whatever terminology it is. So if Hamas releases 10 to 12 hostages ongoing, though apparently Hamas doesn't know where they all are because they're held by other Islamist groups in Gaza, such as the Islamic Jihad. Now, back here in Australia, we had, on Thursday, the student Palestine strike in Melbourne, which the most visible people were not high school students, but university students who mainly looked like members of the Socialist Alternative. There were obviously a young brown Muslims there as well. They were interviewed by a journalist from The Australian, and some of them said quite alarming and perplexing things. One didn't even know who Hamas was. One thought they were doing a good job. One boy said that Israel, it has a right to exist, but it really shouldn't because of what the Palestinians have done. And there was one of the chants at the Melbourne rally was of Allahu Akbar. I think I've got it here. Have I got it here? No, I haven't got it here. Now, of course, one of the striking students, Ivy Bertram, was invited onto the project, and she was straight from Socialist Alternative Central Casting.
Ivy, why did you choose to skip class and strike today?
Well, how can we go to school and do our work when there's a genocide happening in Palestine? We're funding Israel's murder towards Palestinians with our own taxpayer dollars, the same taxpayer dollars that are funding our education. How can we, sit back and just let this all happen? I mean, as a socialist, I want to fight for every single person who is oppressed by this horrible capitalist system.
You may remember last week that the New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb, she called those pro-Palestine protesters who blockaded the port of Botany to block the Zim Israeli-owned container ship docking, professional protesters who they'll be protesting something else next week. Well, this weekend, the Greens, Adam Bandt, he got his kayak and joined a climate blockade at the Port of Newcastle, which was actually sanctioned. It was given a permit by the New South Wales government. Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, he said, "Oh well, we couldn't really stop it since they had applied for the right permit," and compared it to a protest that blocks off the street. And the New South Wales Police Minister, Yasmin Catley, she actually supported the climate kayakers. So Adam Bandt was there on the weekend. They've actually stayed beyond the agreed time there and are now blocking coal ships there. Adam Bandt was on there on the weekend, and Marine Fariki, she attended the Sydney Students for Palestine strike on Friday, and posed for this photo with young female student strikers there. She's now deleted it, but it's circled there. This girl holding up a sign. It says, keep the world clean, and has an Israeli football going into a trash can there, which is, I mean, it speaks for itself there. There were some Jews who protested outside her office in response, and the signs say, "Marine, your office is ethnically cleaned now." And there's another sign there which says, "Bigotry and racism are unacceptable," which is actually a direct quote from her. And the rubbish bins there, trash bins, say, "Is this where I belong?" Now that's a very creative protest there by those local Jew Israel supporters. I mean, normally it's the lefties who are creative with what they do. That was pretty creative there. I have got the footage of the Al Akbar chants at the Melbourne student strike. the fact that they allowed users to praise bin Laden's letter to America. But this week, we have seen a number of Hollywood celebrities. Well, I wouldn't say cancelled, but certainly there have been ramifications for their pro-Palestine activism. The most high profile, Susan Sarandon, the longtime Hollywood communist. She has been dropped from her UTA talent agency, accusing her of making anti-Semitic remarks at a rally. The remarks that she made there are a lot of people afraid of being Jewish at this time, and they're getting a taste of what it feels like to be a Muslim in this country. She went on to repost on X a pro-Palestinian post from Pink Floyd's Roger Waters, who's been criticized for years over his anti-Semitic remarks. Now, as I said, she's been a Hollywood communist for 50 years. I mean, when she was with Tim Robbins, they were Hollywood's communist power couple. And so that was okay, them espousing communism. But yeah, apparently now this is the line here, her pro-Palestinian activism there. Apparently that's now too much for Hollywood. Now, the Hollywood strike, which was both the Writers Guild of America strike and the SAG AFTRA strike, they're both over now. So Hollywood actors and writing, they're supposed to be getting back to work. But Scream 7, which it would be the third installment of the requel movies. So Scream 5 introduced a new core 4 central characters who are chased by Ghostface. They are the Carpenter sisters. So the oldest one. The oldest one is Sam Carpenter, who her father is the first Ghostface, Billy Loomis, who was Sidney Prescott's homicidal boyfriend, played by Neve Campbell. So she was played by Melissa Barrera. She has been fired by the production company that now owns the Scream franchise, Spyglass, for accusing Israel of ethnic cleansing and genocide. So Spyglass was founded by 2 Jews. They said that they fired her because they took a strong stand against anti-Semitism and false equivalents of false accusations of ethnic cleansing and genocide. So she was the main character of the Scream requel, so she's gone, and so is Jenna Ortega, who plays Sam's younger sister, Tara. Jenna Ortega, she plays Wednesday Addams. Now, supposedly, this has nothing to do with Melissa Barrera's firing, though previously Jenna Ortega, before she deleted her Twitter account or X account, she was accused of anti-Semitism for retweeting a link to a pro-Palestine website which said decolonize Palestine. So yeah, the two new Scream sisters, they've been highly successful. The Scream 5 and 6. So they're gone. Now, Neve Campbell, who plays Sydney Prescott, she didn't appear in Scream 6 because of a pay dispute with Paramount, which she claimed I would have been paid a fairly if I was a man, played the gender card. So Paramount will probably go to her and shower her with, we'll give you whatever money you want to return. Courtney Cox, she was still in Scream 6 as Gail Weathers, but David Arquette, who plays Dewey, spoiler alert, he was murdered in Scream 5, which was meant to shock people that in requels legacy characters can be killed as well. Now, we don't know the other two members of the core four are the Martin Meeks twins, which is they are the niece and nephew of deceased film nerd from the first Scream 2, Randy Meeks. And so his sister married a black man, and so they're black twins, and they're male and female, and the daughter is of course a short-haired lesbian as well, because you've got to get the diversity intersectionality points up in your modern remakes there. Even though for the first Scream 4 movies were written by a gay man in Kevin Williamson, and they had almost no gay characters or analogies, because Kevin Williamson knew that just wasn't that it wasn't central to teen life in the late 90s and the early 2000s there. So that is sad about Scream 7. Though I think it's a lesson for all the actors and writers now, getting back to work. In the words of Bobo Gigliotti, owner of Fat Pizza, shut up and get back to work. Now, going on to problems at home. So it is the final week of federal parliament for the years. The Albanese government is they will be they are certainly not where they thought they would be. The news poll last night had a Labor and the Coalition at 50-50. Both Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese have net minus 13 approval. Negative, they're in negative, though Anthony Albanese is still preferred Prime Minister. 46 to Dutton 35. The Labor's primary vote has plummeted down to 31%, the Coalition at 38%. And Labor it has shown itself it is vulnerable in one of the main policy areas which caused it to lose government in the Rudd-Gillard years, and that is border protection, border control. Now, they obviously the High Court decision, they couldn't control that. They certainly could have prepared a contingency if the 20-year-old precedent was overturned. And they were caught, certainly with no plan, where they had to yield to public pressure and the opposition pressure to rush through emergency legislation to regulate, put strict conditions on those 93 high-risk detainees, convicted criminals, rapists, pedophiles, national security risks. The Daily Mail published another article on another one of these creeps who is now on the streets amongst us. So, Afghan refugee asked 3 boys for sex after being released from immigration detention. So he is known by FYBR. And so it's when you hear about what they've done, it makes you sick that they're amongst us. So It's so he's originally from Afghanistan. His family moved to Pakistan when he was 3, arrived in Australia by boat illegally in March 2013. So he sought a protection visa and was allowed to live in the community. And so he approached 3 teenage boys for sex. So when the boy declined, he told them to kiss his ass, according to court documents. There was another one. He asked him if he could find him a boyfriend and said he likes sucking. The team pushed him away and told the mother about the incident. Then a 14-year-old boy was sleeping he was sleeping under a tree when he woke to see a 14-year-old boy riding on his scooter. He whistled out to the boy, offering him 100 if he kissed him, asked the boy to suck him. When the boy declined, he offered him 200. When the scared boy left later in the day, when the refugee grabbed his cert, police saw the boy fleeing when they stopped him. What an absolute creep. Now, so he told the police that he was attracted to younger males, and if the 3 boys approached him, had accepted his sexual advances, he would have intercourse with them. While admitting the offences to the police, he thought that he had not committed an offence within his rights to ask those young males for sex. So this is pretty messed up when you actually find out the details. So the Administrative Appeals Tribunal rejected when he sought to overturn the decision. FDR knows what he did was unacceptable in Australia because of the consequences of the actions for him, but he does not understand why his actions were wrong. He seemed to think that because he did not touch his victims, his conduct was acceptable. The tribunal concluded from his evidence that he believed at the time of the offence that the freedom available in Australia compared to the constraints on his behaviour in Pakistan allowed him to request minors to satisfy his sexual desires. That obviously that it's completely disgusting what he did, and thank God that he didn't molest any of those boys. But the fact that these creeps think that the West allows that, I mean, just shows that how decadent we are viewed. I mean, we are seeing obviously we are seeing with the groomer phenomena, how some sex offenders and pedophiles, they're trying to hide themselves in the rainbow flag. We have seen in the US some of these drag queen storytime readers actually be sex offenders. So we are actually attracting creeps who want to and predators who want to come here as refugees. So, and we could have the boats return, and we had last week. There was a boat of 12 people from Pakistan who had paid a people smuggler over around about $10,000 each, and they came to Australia and they weren't detected at all. They just wandered on to the mainland of Australia, US $10,000, and in the Kimberley region, and they just wandered on to a remote Aboriginal community where they were discovered, and Border Force detained them and flew them to Nauru. There has actually been 10 illegal boat arrivals since the Albanese government was elected in May 2022. So obviously, with the High Court's decision, the people smugglers, they will certainly try with a new or you would say enticement, that if you get to Australia and fight long enough that you cannot be deported to your country of origin, then you can remain in Australia. And of course, they've got all of the refugee advocates who will lobby for them, to litigate to them. And in fact, Claire O'Neill, even though she said publicly that she thought the precedent, they would win the High Court case, was trying to resettle that Rohingya pedophile who raped a 10-year-old boy to the United States. So trying to make the High Court case go away. Now, in a sign, the Albanese government, their current mass migration, legal migration strategy of accepting over 600,000 people over 2 years isn't being accepted by the Australian people. Albanese's line is that, oh, we're just catching up because of COVID. Now, it's been leaked to the media that the Albanese government is saying, well, we're reaching peak migration, so we can just go back down now. There's going to be stricter conditions on international students coming in because that's quite a wrought, a foot in the doorway for permanent migration to Australia. There's a current review going on. So the Albanese government, they've been caught with not being prepared for crisis with reacting to this High Court decision. They're either incompetent, out of their depth, because last week Claire O'Neill didn't even know whether the sex offenders were wearing ankle bracelets. Absolutely astonishing. Although this week, the Albanese government, they're trying to comply with another High Court ruling that said that the Home Affairs Minister couldn't strip terrorists of their citizenship. This was after a convicted terrorist Abou Nasser Benrika, who got his foot in the door from Algeria in the 90s. So this new legislation will give judges the power to strip dual citizenship from a convicted terrorist. So that will comply with the High Court's ruling there. Also, the cost of living crisis, it is continuing it hasn't finished yet. And the Reserve Bank Governor, Michelle Bullock, last week, maybe the Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese, they'll be hoping that they can have back Phil Lowe, because Michelle Bullock has said that inflation is domestic demand driven, i.e. that if Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese blame it on the war in Ukraine, the Israel-Hamas war, they're lying. And she actually said that it's being driven by demands such as dentistry and haircuts, which the mainstream media last week interviewed plenty of angry hairdressers in dentistry saying, how dare she? So expect a likely interest rate rise in December and probably more in 2024, because we still have a comparatively low interest rate, 4.35% compared to the other central banks. They raised it to above 5% to crush inflation. Our inflation, obviously the Albanese government, their industrial relations policies, having industry-wide enterprise bargaining, also wanting to regulate the gig economy, that is certainly not going to increase productivity. Make sure that there's more. If more is produced, if our GDP is higher, then more supply, then prices go down. And also, Chris Bowen last week, he has announced a capacity investment scheme, which will have the Commonwealth underwrite a solar, wind power, and battery storage projects. So that means that the Commonwealth will underride the losses but take some of the profits. So it's basically another picking winners and losers, because Chris Bowen, he desperately wants to get to 42% emissions reductions, which also means that, well, you're certainly not going to get your 275 power energy saving that you're promised at the election by Anthony Albanese. The cost of electricity is just going to keep going up. So that's going to make inflation sticky as well. Those to policies as well. And even though our border control policies are in disarray, the long-time Home Affairs Secretary Mike Pezzullo has been sacked today. This was after a Nick McKenzie-led 60 Minutes and the Age Sydney Morning Herald expose, which leaked text WhatsApp messages between him and Liberal power broker Scott Briggs, where Mike Pezzullo, he was basically wanting to be a political player as well. When Scott Morrison took over from Malcolm Turnbull as Prime Minister, he told Scott Briggs which ministers he wanted in his Home Affairs portfolio. Mike Pezzullo was the Immigration and Border Protection Secretary of the predecessor department when Operation Sovereign Borders was enacted by the Abbott government under Scott Morrison as Immigration Minister. So he was certainly a head of department who could be absolutely trusted to implement tough border policies, and now it's without a department head. So the current acting head of the department is Stephanie Foster. I have no idea who she is. Now, before I forget, another interesting local development in the local Israel-Gaza Palestine conflict is that there have been a number of journalists, editors, senior media figures from who work for major news organizations in Australia have put their name to an open letter calling for greater scrutiny in the reporting of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. So prominent journalist Tony Armstrong, who presents The Sport on ABC, Benjamin Law, Jan Fran have signed the letter. So the letter, amongst other requests, asks for adequate coverage of credible allegations of war crime, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid. And in response, the editor of the Sydney Morning Herald, Bevan Shields, has said anyone who signed that letter will not be able to cover the Israel-Gaza war. So forget the fact that this is about the Israel-Hamas war. I mean, this just shows again that journalists in Australia are not objective. They're all ideologues. They all have they are all biased. They all have a slant when reporting. I mean, obviously, you can tell News Corp journalists, they're always accused of being biased, but it's funny, the left-wing reporters, they're more prone to being called objective. I think that the only real objective journalist who's ever been at the ABC, who scrutinizes both sides, is probably Lee Sales, and she was ran out of the 7:30 hosting role because of Labor trolls. All right, coming towards the end of the show. I'm glad I got through most of it without any more technical difficulties like there were at the beginning of the show. Now, last Wednesday night, there was an alert put out by ProMed, which discussed a pneumonia outbreak in children in northern China. And when you hear the words unknown pneumonia, China, or mystery pneumonia, and because ProMed, they are the organization that put out the alert in December 30, 2019 about a mystery virus breakout in Wuhan. And so this was seized upon by both the COVID crazies and also members of the Freedom, MAGA, nationalist movement saying, oh, look, they're the 2024 PSYOP is about to begin another mystery virus on China to guarantee the mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, so that Joe Biden can re-elect it. He's behind in the polls. But if you look at this more deeply, I had heard since October there had been a significant outbreak in respiratory infections amongst children back in October. So this has been going on for a number of months, and this is because the COVID zero policy of the Chinese Communist Party has meant that many children, they have not been exposed to viruses, seasonal viruses that they would normally be. So this is mainly the outbreaks of respiratory infections in children are mainly in Beijing and other northern Chinese cities. Now, the World Health Organization, they put in an official request to the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention. They denied any major kind of crisis is unfolding, and said that the WHO said Chinese authorities advises there is no detection of any unusual or novel pathogens or unusual clinical presentations. They further stated that the rise in respiratory illnesses has not resulted in patient loads exceeding hospital capacities. No change in disease were presented, were reported by the Chinese health authorities. So the pneumonia outbreak in children, it is the particular pneumonia virus is what is called walking pneumonia, or it's another name, mycoplasma pneumonia. So I don't think that we should panic or think that, oh, this is all going to happen again unless we hear otherwise. We know that the mainstream media, the COVID crazies, they want another pandemic. And we do know that if there is another pandemic, they'll try the same thing again, lockdowns, mask and mandates, even though none of them worked the first time. And the UK COVID inquiry, I mean, that is turned into an absolute joke. It is obsessed about that, oh, Boris Johnson, his government, they should have locked down a week earlier. They would have saved heaps of lives, even though the virus is with us forever now. So what would be like lock it down so what you can eventually unless you want to be like China tried for 3 years with COVID zero at immense economic and social cost, and it was horrific on the citizenry. And they're also obsessed with condemning a Rishi Sunak a economic or hospitality stimulus scheme in 2020, Eat Out to Help Out, saying that spread infection. So it has been turned into that they didn't lock down hard and fast enough, and it was wrong to attempt opening up in 2020. And there's been a number of advisors have said, oh, Boris Johnson was the wrong prime minister at the time. Oh, the ministers, they didn't understand the scientific briefings. They didn't have the appropriate expertise. So we know that Boris Johnson and his government ministers, their instincts was that we shouldn't lock down. This only affects the elderly and the immunocompromised, but they were political cowards. They didn't want to be blamed for all the deaths of elderly people with COVID, and so they locked down and mandated absolute political cowardice. They didn't stand by their principles at all. And like they have with other issues, such as with border control, free speech, and that is why they're going to be booted out in 2024. Now, at the recent Conservative Party conference, there was an attempt to entice Nigel Farage, a former UKIP and Brexit Party leader to join the Conservatives. He said no, he's staying with the Reform Party, the successor to the Brexit Party. And even though there's been massive news in New Zealand, Argentina, and the Netherlands, Nigel has actually been here in Australia, not on tour, not speaking with the people, but in our outback on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And it's actually been a lot of commentary has been that this is part of Nigel's trying to get a mass appeal. So when the Tories they're thrown out on their ass in 2024, he can either join there or because of the UK's first past the post system. I mean, Nigel has tried to run for the House of Commons repeatedly under UKIP and failed. So it's really difficult for a third party, but clearly he is not done in politics, and I didn't know that I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the UK had what you would call not even D-listers, but F-listers, including TikTok influencers, such as this is an exchange with some TikTok influencer, Nella Rose, who's talking to Nigel about how you're the anti-immigrant guy. She's basically parroting all the boogeyman propaganda she's heard about Nigel Farage.
But this is what I was saying to you.
Apparently you're anti-immigrants. And
who told you that?
Oh, the internet.
Well, there we are. Then it must be true. It must be true.
It must be.
It must be true.
Okay, but then why don't black people like you?
You'd be amazed they do. You'd be amazed.
Nigel!
If you came with me, if you came with me through South London, you'd be astonished.
Oh, wow. What were you doing in South London, Nigel?
Well, I'm there every day.
You're in South. Wait, sorry. I'm so sorry to be short. What are you doing? Sorry.
He's from South London.
I travel through South London.
So everyone hates you for no reason. Well, not that everyone hates you. That was so bad. But like, sorry.
You can disagree with somebody. But to chuck around accusations the way that they've been chucked around is grossly unfair. Anti-immigrant, right? No. All I've said is we cannot go on with the numbers coming to Britain that are coming. Do you know why?
I'm one of the numbers.
Oh, right. So that's it then. So should it be 5 million a year? 10 million?
Question,
No, you don't seem to understand.
Nigel, hang on.
Those immigrants that are coming in.
And hang on.
Had you have been in power a bit
later.
later.
So long about immigrants.
I did not expect to be caught in a full-on debate. I really didn't. Just wanted a bubble bath.
Listen, since 2000, the British population has increased by 10 million. 10 million.
Yeah, we're growing.
Thing. Right?
Good thing, unless you want a GP appointment.
Right.
Good thing, unless you want your kid.
So I'm stopping you from getting a GP appointment.
You're
not getting an appointment because the NHS is lacking funding. I bet you anything here, if every single immigrant or somebody from immigrant descent was to leave the UK.
What would be
Huh? Doctors, all your doctors,
God. Oh, I know.
Most of your doctors are Asian, right?
Which is
most of your nurses are African women, right?
But don't you understand what I'm saying?
You want us gone. That's all I understood.
Stop it. Stop it.
That's what you're trying to say because we're
not. You just don't want more people coming. Is that what you're trying to say?
You're not listening
Why not?
to a single word I'm saying.
I am listening to you.
No, you're not. You're not. You're dealing with this
I'm
out of a
disagreeing
position.
with you.
Right.
It's okay for us to disagree on this.
Brucey says he is absolute scum for even entertaining this. I mean, it was easy for him to destroy Nella. She's an absolute moron. I mean, a libtard, a college student in the United States who asked Ben Shapiro a question is more intelligent than she is, though. She parrots the line that because the NHS doctors and nurses are Asian. They're treating you. This is an example of see you'd be screwed without us immigrants. And we have seen that. Well, I was just mentioning the Tories not fulfilling their promises under Rishi Sunak. The Office of National Statistics revised its estimate for net migration to the UK, meaning the number of people arriving minus those leaving in the year, December 2022, is 745,000, a new record and significantly higher than the previous estimate of 606,000 for the same period. So that is net migration, not new migration. That's 745,000. So apparently, for somebody like Nella, the TikTok influencer, that is good. That it's not having any effect on the economy and culture and social cohesion of the UK. That's perfectly fine there. And remember, this is the invasion of Britain, and the illegal boat arrivals. Well, I guess it can be it's a subject of debate whether they've been invited or not, because it's not an invasion if you're invited in. Though obviously they're coming to the UK, these boat people, illegally, but the government not doing anything. Is that basically a welcome, because they're housed in migrant hotels? The natives are kicked out. People's weddings, holidays cancelled because hotels are booked up to house illegal immigrants. And I said last week that the Jewish groups, such as the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, it's the penny has dropped for him. That, well, it's like the support for Israel amongst the youth, left and right, is plummeting. He didn't quite connect the dots that it's because he has supported mass migration to the United States, which contains lots and lots of people who hate Israel and the Jewish people. There is still a lot of cognitive dissonance among progressive Jewish groups. They obviously, it's frightening to them that that these pro-Palestine rallies are so big in the West now, and they're alarmed that support for Israel is plummeting. It's not as strong as they thought it was, or it was in the past. And this is in part why Netanyahu has taken the deal, because he wants to, well, maintain international support for Israel. So this is why I couldn't believe that Jewish groups who had taken, who were part of the march against anti-Semitism in London on Sunday, which I saw Douglas Murray promote this, that he didn't attend because I think he's still in Israel cosplaying with his press bulletproof vest and helmet hat, though Konstantin Kisin, who's one half of the trigonometry duo, who is Jewish himself, he did attend. So I give credit for him for getting out of his studio and actually attending a march. But I couldn't believe that that some Jewish groups requested the Met Police kick out Tommy Robinson, who is another boy who is back in town. Obviously, he is part of the civic nationalist faction, and you could say that he's similar to Geert Wilders in a way. He's just a old school liberal Democrat who realizes that if you import intolerant people, your society is not going to work. Even though he's a supporter of Israel, he wore the Mossad shirt after all. Apparently, he's persona non grata, and he was kicked out, and the Met Police issued him with a disperse notice. And so because he didn't comply, he was arrested.
Like you lot, yeah? I'm just here to do my job. That's my cameraman. I'm at work. Do you think a member of the press should be arrested for doing their job? No. I'm glad the journalists are saying that. So,
Stephen, this is your wrong. Stephen, you're listening. This is your dispersal notice. You've now basically got to leave immediately. Are you going to take this off me or not? It's up to you. Right, blow your nose in it.
Officer, you're embarrassing.
Stephen,
You're embarrassing. This is
yourself.
embarrassment.
Take that as a no.
It's
So
an
you now
embarrassment.
need to leave.
It's an embarrassment to the police.
Come on, get your hands off him. Get your hands off him. Get your hands off him.
Where are you taking me to?
That's it.
Where are you
Turn your
taking me
nose off.
to? Where are you taking me to?
Just turn your nose off. No. I'm not pushing you.
My colleague. We'll just arrest you. That's my colleague. I don't care. I'm at work. I'm at work. You're being asked to leave. Come on. Right. Do not touch the officer.
No, listen, I've got to get this. I'm doing the security.
Keep it moving, guys. Keep the corner moving.
I'm doing the security, guys. I'm doing this guy's security.
Keep the corner moving.
I'm doing the guy's security. I can get him out. This way.
Okay, follow me. Mate, there is no freedom of the press. You've all seen. Stop! I'm not doing anything. You're doing it. Get off me. You're the one doing it. Get back! Get back! Out of the way. Out of the way.
Brucey says a bunch of lesbian nanas. Get back, get back. Did you see those brutes? They knocked over that female camera woman. Well, she just had a phone, so they thought, oh, well, she's not a real camera woman, so we can just knock her over. I see McMelissa said he's doing an RV. I think Tommy thought that is genuinely surprised that he was removed there. I mean, would RV Yemeni have been removed? Obviously, RV is very close with Tommy, as is the founder of Rebel News, another Jew, Ezra Levent. And now I would think that if you're going to have a march against anti-Semitism, you're going to want everyone who's against anti-Semitism together. I've just talked about how support for Israel is plummeting. The Jews need all the allies they can at the moment. They can't really be picky. And so Tommy Robinson, his political policy propositions, they, if implemented, they would guarantee greatly increase the safety of Jews in the West. So it seems that the cognitive dissidence continues. And so the Met Police put out a statement which said, officers working as part of the policing and security operation for the March Against Anti-Semitism arrested a 40-year-old man on the Strand. He refused to comply with the direction to disperse under Section 35 of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act. Further details below. We've been in frequent contact with the organisers of the march in recent days. They have been clear about their concerns that the man's attendance and that of those who were likely to accompany him would cause fear for other participants. Really? That is such an irrational fear. The same view has been voiced by others. As a result, he was spoken to and warned on more than one occasion that his continued presence in the area was likely to cause harassment, alarm, and distress to others. He was directed to leave the area but refused to do so. We're aware that this man has suggested he was in the area as a journalist. This is not a relevant factor in his arrest. So, yeah, the Met Police they said, "Oh, look, we're just enforcing the law and following the wishes of organisers." Now, again, for once, I will give credit to Douglas Murray, because he said, "I wonder how different Britain would be if our police treated Hamas leaders in Britain with a fraction of the dedication they pursue." Tommy Robinson, not quite an endorsement of Tommy Robinson, but saying, how come you're not going after Hamas leaders with a fraction of the dedication? And that was retweeted by Konstantin Kisin as well. I mean, Tommy should be acceptable to Konstantin Kisin, Douglas Murray. I mean, basically, Douglas Murray, his commentary is apocalyptic at the moment. You know, this is a battle for the West's soul and survival. He is he's using very hyperbolic language. He's on every social media. Almost does an interview a day these days. So, I mean, you got to take a bit more risk, mate, if you think that, you know, back some people you may think are radical or rough or not entirely 100% squeaky clean. All right, I think that that's the end of the show. Gone way over time, though we did have a false start. I'll see you all for tomorrow night. It's at the Theorist, 9 p.m. Melbourne time, on the Theorist's channels, YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. Remember, if you want to support the work of the Unshackled, go to unshackled.net/membership. Take out a Unshackled membership. I don't want to share the screen or share the links because I'm just worried the stream will crash, or the CPU will crash now. But the unshackled.net/membership. And I will see you all tomorrow night. I'll be recording some more reports from Tiger Man, Richard Wilson-Croft later in the week. And I will also be at the same time, Tim's News Explosion, next Monday. Hopefully I'm back on my super good computer. I can get my capture card working. Haven't got any good guests coming up, though I have got some thoughts about who I might ask. So I'll let you know when I do. Good night, everybody. Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.